Welcome, and bienvenidos to Tech and Tequila, the podcast where tech innovation meets life's boldest adventures. I'm your host, Kat Lopez Shelby, your go-to techie chica, trusted tech advisor, and digital nomad, or I like to say local voyager. So, of course, this would not be Tech and Tequila without me also being a tequila enthusiast. So whether you're here for the latest in tech trends, insights from industry leaders, or just a good story with a splash of tequila, you are in the right place. Because each week we dive into game-changing strategies, inspiring journeys, and a little tech magic to help entrepreneurs, creators, and curious minds thrive in this crazy, fast-paced digital world that we live in. Oh, and did I mention we're all serving it up with a side of your favorite tequila because life's too short not to celebrate every single win. So grab your glass, power up, and join in the conversation. This is Tech and Tequila, where the future meets the spirit of adventure. Salud. And of course, today's episode is super exciting. And I think I say that every episode, but I am super pumped today to have Dr. Jenna W. Clack here. Right there, live and in person. Jenna.
Hi. I'm so glad to be here. I'm really excited about today and what we're going to talk about. I already have a pared down version to make sure that we get the highlights in. And it is always exciting, Kat. It's valid.
That's true. You know, it's funny too, because we're about to do the segment for Tech and Tequila, and it could not be a more perfect time because as I was telling you right before we hopped on, that I'm feeling very mice and men today because due to shipping, what I was supposed to be tasting is not here. So this is kind of like a mini reset, which absolutely goes along with what we're talking about. But, you know, this would not be Tech and Tequila without talking about tequila. So if you guys are looking for a new tequila to try, you're kind of like, what's out there? What's going? I mean, we've covered Mi Gente, we've covered Pantalones, we've covered Flecha, we've covered, I was going to say Casa Azul, but that's not the right one. But we've covered several of them. But you know what we haven't covered is La Gritona. And so that is what today's tequila spotlight is going to be over, is La Gritona. And in case you haven't ever heard of La Gritona, it is a unapologetic tequila that has some very serious mujer power behind it. So just to let you know, La Gritona is handcrafted by Amelia Barajas, one of the few female master distillers in Mexico. Her entire distillery team is all women, so all badass bonitas, that's for sure. All working out of the highlands of Jalisco in Valle de Guadalupe. So let me set the scene for you. They're harvesting blue agave that's been growing for 8 to 10 years. So it's mature, strong, and ready to go. The agave is then roasted in old school thick wall ovens for 24 hours, then left to rest for a whole nother day. There's no shortcuts here. And they're fermenting in open air still vats with nothing but good vibes and time. So La Gritona is aged for 6 months in used whiskey barrels. So you get a touch of depth with a bright, earthy agave that still sings through. No vanilla bomb here, just clean, smooth tequila with a whisper of kind of that aged whiskey barrels taste that you kind of get, which gives it more like depth. So, and because we love a brand that respects the land, every bottle is made from recycled Mexican glass, hand blown in Zapopan. So it is definitely sustainable, which is awesome. So if you are looking for a new tequila to try this weekend with whatever you're looking for, you're going to have to give La Gritona a try. You can obviously pick it up online or at your, I say, local liquor store. But just, you know, it's great to give it a try. Now back to the main event, because where would we be if we weren't going to talk about things? And as you all know, so we're recording this on April 1st, which the first day of April, also the first day of the second quarter. And it would not be a better time for me to have Dr. Jenna W. Clack on here to talk about a little reset of the mindset, so to speak. So, what are your thoughts just basically on second quarter, resetting, evaluation? Like, where do you kind of vibe at?
Well, I love a good reset, and you can do it anytime. Like, I'm always a fan of not waiting till the end of the weekend for your reset whenever you feel it. And to have these, what we would say quarterly, that fall in line with the seasons is best in spring. So I feel like Q2 is the vibe, right? Like, we've already decided what doesn't work for the first few little iterations this year. And we are very clear on what will work. We can kind of see that from the observation. So this is a time where mindset matters more than ever, which is why when we looked over what's the most important thing to offer, to talk about, to, really drive home about what people are asking questions regarding, but don't really know how to get at the core of. And the mindset of Q2, of spring, of reset is all just really prime time discussion for bringing up these subjects that really align with what we are achieving on a daily basis and might not see it.
Oh my goodness, I think this is the perfect thing because now we've gone through the first like 90 days of business in this new year, 2025. And, we get to look at it. And I think this is no better time to talk about this. And I think you can share some experience in this. And so when is a moment where like in your business where you realize like it's time to pivot and as you're taking a look at 90 days, a year, whatever it may be, and what mindset shift help you make that decision with confidence? Like where you're like, yeah, I know I don't need to go straight anymore. We need to make a left or we need to tweak this a bit. How did you do that?
This is so deep, and really it kind of all goes into one thing when it comes back to it. I've pivoted a few times from being a pure consultancy to open a full shop to then moving into more online space to doing retreats, speaking. And now I really do have kind of a diverse portfolio. But there was one time where I had everything really going for me on the outside. And I felt really drained more than I was inspired. I felt like there was too much being pulled on without enough being refilled. And there wasn't a clear answer at how to move forward because there wasn't anything necessarily wrong. And I was getting these great big compliments and successes and feeling very flat by them and saying, oh yeah, I'm super glad that health success, these miracles are happening, right? And I think that when you realize that you are having to and needing to and in this driven mindset, which is good to get you there in some aspect. However, there's this other way of aligning. And when the mindset shift happens to align instead of push, right? It's like there's so much friction that happens when you push on something and make it work. And sometimes we make something work in our business because we see it working, or in our life. You can put this everywhere. And realizing that I work better in inspiration and being in hormones, realizing that was like this pivotal, like realization after realization after realizations, because our hormones create our reality. We have our neurohormonal patterns that are reflecting back to us and really creating matter in our world and the way that we are existing in our entire well-being. And then I was looking to figure that out and to do it right. And so that point was the biggest mindset shift and the most pivotal moment. And I think anyone can kind of relate to the moment where you're not excited anymore and you're having to do it instead of choosing to do it. That's always the moment to reconsider and reset and shift. And you don't have to throw everything away. Maybe you need to, but I think that leaning into the intuitive wisdom is so much deeper and has so much wisdom that you can't get from a book or asking 12 business besties, right?
Well, I think it's interesting that you point out asking 12 business besties, because while I do value everyone's input, I think at some point you really have to take a deep dive internally to decide, how do I want to move forward? What do I really want? I think that might be like what I would say Yeah, I'll say
Mm,
it's I think that's one of the number one questions is what do I really want and how do I build everything around like this being my goal, so to speak.
right. And this is actually one of my biggest specialties in quantum branding intensive, which is quantum is energy, branding is ownership, and intensive is drawing inward for strength. And
Mhm.
so all of those things are in there. And I hear that when we do ask a lot of opinions and we're trying to get all this information and we don't draw inward for that strength, we don't own our own decisions, we don't measure our own energy, and we're not used to practicing that because it's not encouraged, the other's
Mhm.
encouraged, right? Then we end up in this, there's this uncertainty that we kind of get caught up in. And so we see these blocks, right? Like being fearful of judgment for yourself or judgment outwardly. Judgment for yourself is really a lot of it, whether we say that way directly or not. And really guiding yourself back and having a mentor to help guide you back to this core
Mhm.
frequency, and connecting with deeper truth. And the deeper truth is work, right? Like we've actually talked about this as values
Mhm.
over stuff, because stuff is, of course, cool and we can visualize and we can be around all that. And I mean, stuff in every aspect of the way of how we see our career, or the way that we envision things versus the way they feel. And so
Mhm.
values get you in line with how you feel. And if you can simplify and prioritize a few values, it makes all your decisions so much easier. Like, I really wish I would have known this sooner, and really, like, I knew it. Maybe I wouldn't just do it. I'm
Mhm.
encouraging everyone to just go ahead and trust the intuition, draw inward, and experience those things, because when you do need to pivot in life or in business, and what we look at is for our as visionary leaders and things that are successful in entrepreneurship, connecting with that core frequency is connecting to what makes you go, right?
Mhm.
What pushes you forward in a way that you're choosing. And I think that kind of ties back to, when do you pivot? When you don't feel like you're choosing anymore,
Mhm.
right? You want to be making choices. You want to feel
Yeah.
autonomous at some level.
Yeah, and I think that leads into the next thing, which is what are some common like mindset blocks you see with entrepreneurs? Because I know you work with so many amazing, like both women and men entrepreneurs who are afraid to pivot. And how can you help? Like, how do you help them move through those fears, or and as a side note, adjust that mindset so that they can just like sail through?
Right, right. Well, it's really fun. I'm gonna nerd out right now. I hope I don't get too deep, but honestly, there's no too deep. Um, Hormones are important. So looking at how you are experiencing the world. So I like to look at how you are experiencing the world. That helps give us a perspective. And then we also look at a few tools for persona. So we look at some persona tests so we understand your perspective at this point in time and how we can speak in words that are most aligned with what you are going to hear, so that you can use those neurohormonal patterns to your benefit and utilize, you know, the information that we have in interviews. So the one-on-one is key. We'll decide what works best for you. If human design is something that you dig, if you're more into all of the functional labs, what language works for you, and what experiences you've had. So it is individualized on that core. However, the main things that we look at in having issues really are this uncertainty, this guilt, shame, wanting to be better and not knowing exactly how to align with that, knowing that there's something that can be moved and not really knowing where to wiggle it. I find the string and we start pulling at that string and untangle things for you so you can have some clarity, because everyone has that clarity and stillness, and that's available to every single person. And when you're not following life's outcomes willingly in the direction that aligns best with you, when you're having any type of snag, instead of keeping pulling at the snag and unraveling everything, we want to take some time to reset, let's tie it back in, to reset and decide what is the best mode of either action or inaction to allow your system, your body to reprogram in a way that you have some charge over it. A mindset shift can recalibrate a vision. And so allowing yourself to move past some of those, it really is like fear, judgment, guilt, and shame, feeling these things that are connected to things that are real and we've experienced but can be repatterned. That's my jam. It's so useful. It's miraculous how you can move forward. And sometimes you just don't know where that you want to pivot. I can I was horrible at basketball, but like I'm thinking of literally pivoting in basketball. And sometimes you're just like, I'm pivoting, but like what direction? who's open, right? Who can I pass this to? So it's nice to have a teammate out there and giving some guidance for sure, because it's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, I know. I was completely picturing like standing there in the basketball where they're like, do I throw it and pass it to somebody, or do I go ahead and take the shot, or do I throw it, or do I take the shot? And, within that, where you talk about, do I throw it or do I take the shot? How can someone tell the difference between needing just a mindset shift, like needing to like recalibrate the mindset versus like, okay, we need to pivot and make a turn to the left or to the right, or however you
right,
want
and make that physical reality shift out. I think when your mindset doesn't find a path forward, I think the mindset is so strong that there is a shift that might be available within that pivot that is just mindset based, that unlocks everything else and allows for so many things to come through. Because when we are fearful, we're stupid. Like that's just science. So if we can be calm, we can be pretty smart about it, honestly.
No, and I think what you just said is so important, because when you make a decision based on a fear or like something that is happening and it's that knee jerk, it's not always the right decision, because you don't have a chance to like breathe through it and think through it. So what recommendations do you make when someone's at that point? How do you say, okay, take a step back?
That's a really good question. And the practices are different for everyone. I hate to keep saying individualized, that is it. And in general, allowing yourself to learn more about yourself without having the judgment. So everything we do is that. We are learning more about ourselves without attaching judgment to it, so that we are practicing a level of detachment that is healthy, so that you can take the good stuff, you can take the stuff that works for you, and you can leave the stuff that doesn't work for you without causing a riff or friction or needing that to be bad or wrong. And so really that is working through it. That is talking through it and letting yourself process that emotion in a safe space without distractions. I think that is the benefit of consulting in general, because you have a focus point where you can simplify the stuff. It's not complicated. It's just noisy out there. So we allow ourselves to simplify that and find what I call the space with no name. And so there's actually a formula for creating space. And so we move through that space creation formula of observing what's going on and taking full time to observe without making any action, giving ourselves space to decide what's going on, because a lot of times our first observation is proved incorrect very quickly, and we'll be able to see more. So allowing ourselves to evaluate the situation, and instead of feeling like we're responsible, like I'm responsible for everything, allowing ourselves to be able to respond. And so that really is a practice that we find in each person's story that you're able to create new patterns for. I mean, it is a mindset shift, and it is so connected. I was thinking about earlier, like, I think everyone I work with at this point is an entrepreneur of some sort, or an artist, or an entrepreneur or an artist of some sort, because there is a mindset that gets excited at challenges and that said, good or bad, who's to say? So that's the observation point of creating space, is allowing yourself to really look at it. And then you have your experience. That's you do that. This is the Kat's jam. Kat likes to go do it, right? Do it. And so when you do it, you feel it, you gain experience and knowledge that you can't get anywhere else. It's just your perspective. And then you come to a point of regulation. Like, this is what we did at the end of February. We're like, we're looking at March and we're saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do this last month before we reset? So you give yourself space to, what did I like? What did I not like? What do I feel silly about? And then you observe again. So you create this cycle. And with guidance and focusing on your values, it's like you cannot miss being fulfilled and eager and alive and aligned, and like all those things kind of just come to you. And the decision about a pure pivot, like should you pass the ball or hold on to it, becomes intuitive. But if you're doing it out of a reaction, that's not an intuitive inspiration, right? So gaining that clarity helps a lot.
No, I think that talking about clarity was a huge thing, is giving yourself the time to really clarify what exactly, like break it down. I guess I would say to like bare bones, like this is the situation, but let's break down like how do we get here? What needs to change? What needs to be adjusted? And I think I always get where I'm like, how they say you miss the tree in the
forest
forest,
for the
right?
trees.
There you go. Yeah. It's either you're staring at the tree so long, you're missing the forest, or you're looking at the forest, but you're missing the tree. It's deciding like, where are we at and how do we combine those two things together?
It makes me really excited because I actually have a term for this that I never get to use. I call it oscillating focus. Because those fans that like those, it really is. It's like you focus in and you focus out and you focus in and you focus out, and that allows you to flow. And sometimes it's like it helps to have a dance leader for the focusing in and out. So step this way, step that way, and allowing those like energetic alignment checks where possible, because it is a lot to. I get hyper focused a lot. I'm not even going to pretend that I don't. So.
Oh, you and me both. I know exactly what that hyper focus is. It's being, and I like to use the term like neurospicy, that you and I are, or and however you want to verbalize that, is it's, the innate ability to hyper focus and get like 80 hours of work done in like a 4-hour period, and then need to like breathe for a little while and be like, okay, now I need like a 48-hour relax period. So
exactly. The energetic flow is amazing. And I think that's what's interesting, is having those energetic, I don't know, just like alignment evaluations and checking in with yourself are so important, because that allows you a little bit more clarity of how do I want to move through this. And that mindfulness really does directly relate into how you're able to show up and how excited you are to show up in whatever projects that you're doing. And the projects that you're doing have so much to do with how excited you are to show up to everything else too. So
I know you're definitely speaking to my generator heart, as I say, like depending on what you vibe with, I forgot what is the numbers one? I always forget that one.
The Enneagram.
Thank you. The Enneagrams. But it's like, whether it's like your human design, your Enneagram, or if you want to be like, I'm a Pisces and this is how I roll, like it's working within like what you really, for lack of a better term, vibe with,
Right.
What are some daily and weekly practices that you recommend for entrepreneurs, especially ones that are dealing with uncertainty or going through big transitions in their business, or thinking about big transitions? And obviously mindset is huge with any transition, but those things.
Well, I'm going to remind everybody again that when you are afraid, you are really dumb. Like science is so cute. Like it just won't let you get away from it. Like you make such better decisions when you are calm. So teaching yourself the emotional and emotions are epigenetic states of being calm, not only keeps you happier and healthier, but your life is a lot cuter when you play it back on a movie style. Like you're not shaking your head at yourself so much is the way I would put it. And so the things that I would recommend to keep this going are really based in committing to knowing yourself. And when I say committing to knowing yourself, I don't mean like, do I like basketball? Because that's outside, right? Like it's not about what you're enjoying outside. It's about finding a stillness. And it is so beneficial that there are no words for me to convey. I just need everyone to trust that the things that I would recommend biggest and highest on the list are some sort of meditation and finding stillness and silence in your day, so that you can tune in to that intuition, that intensive strength that comes from within you. And that is a practice, and there's no being good or bad at it, and you're not doing it right or wrong. It's giving yourself the gift of spending time with yourself and listening to yourself. I'll even tell my kids if they are talking to everyone, everything, and they're in that space, I can say, hey, have you listened to yourself today? Because we all want to listen to everyone, and that's a great conversation. And have you listened to yourself? Because then you're not so needy for someone to listen to you. And I think adults get stuck in this sometimes. They need someone to hear their point. They need someone to understand them. And that can feel very powerless when you're an entrepreneur. You don't have space for that stuff, right? So I think that the meditation and moments of stillness are more important than there's any words for me to say. I think that is tip top. And then having intuitive journaling and aligning that with, I think it's best to align it with whatever functional. I really do align it with gut functional lab work, and we're working on something specific for metabolic function or for more energy or for more alignment or for regeneration, whatever. We really do put that into what are we feeling and what are our affirmations that are connected to it, and journal through, allowing yourself to hear yourself, to spend that time. And writing is so powerful because it's using so many functions of your body that are connected to each other and imagining with that as well. So there's a lot of different intuitive journaling that you can do that can be connected. And it's really fun to use the tools that you've learned more and more about yourself to align that so that it's more functional, right? Like we can do things at any level. And if you follow it's not, don't follow all the paths, but some of the paths are really nice that you don't have to cut all the trees down along the way. And so I feel like having those tools can really help. And then having regular check-ins to make sure that you're being intentional and having a clarity around your values. I think that those little things are probably the most important, that are the practices that people can, and especially entrepreneurs, really like if you are an entrepreneur and you are not meditating every day, I mean, I guess I don't understand it, like 100. How are you organizing all of the stuff, right? It's so much more organized in my brain when I give it space. So that's definitely something that we do. And the more you can know about yourself, the more you can know about yourself. So in the functional spirit science class, it really goes into all of these practices and understanding why you do them. Because if you don't know why you're doing it and you don't have a connection to the functionality of what you're doing, I mean, again, personally, I'm not going to do it, right? Like if I don't know what, I don't like running in a circle. I'm not a track running kind of girl, right? Like where are we going? Okay. So everyone's different, but that's my take on it. And that's the way I think those tools work best.
Yeah. And I really like when you talk about meditation. So I want to take a moment just to express this. Meditation doesn't mean sitting for like 15, 20, 30 minutes. If you can get in like 3 minutes of meditation, or heck, make it 2 minutes of just sitting in silence, that is going to make a world of difference,
Right.
Whether you're making a big decision, whether you just got off a phone call. Like we all know that, like, let's say you're talking to a client or you're dealing with a stressful situation or whatever it may be. I think any entrepreneur, anybody who works anywhere has had those moments, and someone says, I need to step away for a second, take that, 5-10 minutes to step away. And there's a ton of apps out there that you can look at. But what I like, because when you talk about meditation, what I like is to find the ones that are like, where you can sort them by like 5 minutes or less, or 3 minutes or less, or,
right.
just go in, because, it's great if you can take, 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to be very transparent. I struggle with like going past like 15 minutes because my brain is just like going everywhere.
Right. Well, and I think what's nice is like that really truthful factor of every time you take that space and listen. And that's what it is. We look at prayer as talking and meditation as listening. And they're part of that circle. Every time you take that, you're practicing, you're getting closer. And then there's this side of me that just can't almost resist saying one of the most famous little meditation hacks is, if you have time, meditate 20 minutes a day. And if you don't have time, meditate for an hour, because it gives you more time. But those little times, I 100% agree. And I have a ton of those. My kids love the 5-minute ones, honestly. And that gives you that space. Whatever space that you can have to observe allows you more response time, I guess is the best way to say that.
Absolutely. No, I think that's huge. As we're talking about business, have you ever personally had a pivot that didn't go how you expected? Like, what did you learn from it? I know, let's all laugh at this question, and then how did you like bounce back, or how did you like adjust to what transpired?
Wow. I mean, honestly, as an entrepreneur and just having an entrepreneurial attitude, I feel like this hits home. And of course, there are so many things that didn't go the way that I expected. And some of them were hugely shocking. And I literally would never have expected it, and crashed everything that I thought I was doing. And what I did is, this is going to be really a great lesson point. What I did honestly in that point was realize that there was nothing that I could do in that moment when everything felt like it was falling apart. And when it's the point where you're holding the ball and you're looking around and you're in that fearful moment of, I need to throw this or hold it, what should I do? Taking a second to just stand there and realize, like, the guy's going to come and we're going to fight over it, or we're not. I can stand here for a second. The clock's ticking, but it's fine. And knowing that right now, I think this is really important for life, and especially for entrepreneurs. When we hear the good or bad who's to say story, right? Where you don't really know if it's a good or a bad thing as it's happening because you haven't let the full story play out. And knowing that in that moment, there's nothing that's changing. You're breathing. You could take a sip of water, right? Like in that moment, everything is okay. And I think it's really, that's the biggest mindset thing to always remember, is in this moment, everything's okay. Right now, everything's okay. And if it's not, you'll know, and you won't be saying that. It's fine. But most of the time when you're in that pivotal moment, literally pivotal moment, what am I going to do? When you can realize logically, and it is a practice, and this is how meditation helps, right? But like giving yourself space to say, I'm scared right now. I'm fearful. I'm going to make a dumb decision. I'm going to purposefully act upon these tools that I know to calm me down. And when I find a calm space, I know that the decision will come to me. And after you do that about 80 times, then you can trust it, right? And I think that bouncing back isn't even it, because when you pivot, you go a whole different direction. You're in a new timeline. You always gain additional skills. And something that I was talking to my mom about the other day was that, and since I was a little kid, I can remember her saying, well, baby girl, it's the unknown. It's the unknown you're afraid of, right? And I was laughing because what I know has been scary. I've known some things, right? When these things went down, that was scary. But the unknown, when I jump into that, it's always been good, right? And I think that that's what I learned from it, is that there's nothing that is really bad. There is duality, unity, and change. There is yin and yang. There is whatever you want to call every piece of everything. And I think that mindset shift makes you a successful entrepreneur, because everything is a challenge and nothing is a defeat. And that's how you bounce back.
I love that. And what a better point. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsor and come back, and we're going to talk about mindset shifts that someone would need to use as, of course, my personal favorite, as a digital nomad. So whether you're a world wanderer or you're like myself, a local voyager. So quick break, and then we'll be right back. I, as a digital nomad, or like I like to say, local voyager, could not be more excited about this. And that is #your digital bliss. So with everything going on, there's no better time to start your journey to freedom as a digital nomad. And that's why myself and Dr. Jenna W. Clack created #your digital bliss. This is a step-by-step course designed to help you navigate tech, security, and strategy for your remote lifestyle. And of course, inside this course, you'll find the ultimate guide to setting up your tech stack, cybersecurity strategies to protect your business on the go, smart budgeting hacks for travel-friendly accommodations. Let me tell you, Dr. Jenna has all the tips and tricks about that. And since she is a world wanderer, I mean, she gets them all set for you. And of course, one of the best things that I think is a huge bonus is the digital nomad packing list and travel planning. So right now we're still under one of our specials for Tech and Tequila, and that is you can enroll today for $222. And if you use the code Tech and Tequila, you'll save 20%. But don't wait, because the price is going to go up after Cinco de Mayo. And don't forget, follow at your.digital.bliss on Instagram. And of course, enroll today to start your journey. So first off, obviously we love and adore our sponsor, hashtag your digital bliss. Make sure and follow them on Instagram at your.digital.bliss. But, the second section of this, we want to kind of adjust ourselves and get ready is I wanted to have Dr. Jenna W. Clack talk a little bit about, mindset and the life of the digital nomad, because, we've talked about this on a couple of episodes where there's not one right way to be a digital nomad. So, whatever that looks like, whether you're a local voyager or a world wanderer, I was going to say it's a journey, it's an adventure. I would like those two terms. But what do you see with people who want to take this jump? Like, what mindset shifts do you personally see that people, number one, and I don't like to use the term need, but that helps them to make this transition into a digital nomad lifestyle?
I think the best place to start is definitions. So I think that shifting our definition of stability from an external stability where we are looking at owning something as a stability, when we can see that that never has really created a sustainable way of giving us something to hold on to as it's always moving, right? I think that finding your intuitive alignment with those values that are important to you is first. And then really it is embracing uncertainty. And instead of saying, I won't try because I don't know and I'm afraid of what is out there, to say something here isn't aligning and I know that there's always something more aligned for me out there. And I trust in that. So I think the biggest mindset shift for most people is just the idea of what safety and stability is. I find it hilarious right now, especially with everyone that is, choosing where they want to be versus what seems like for me to be so crazy and unstable to be in multiple countries and to not have a lot of stuff and to be able to move freely seems really a vibe right now and feels a lot more secure and stable than having invested in a traditional system. I maybe have always been, and I think I do relate with entrepreneurs a lot more like this, of the problem solving mindset of the I don't really feel like I need to deal with it. If I feel unsafe, I would like to access safety. If I feel unhealthy, I would like to access health. If I feel unhappy, I would like to access happiness. And if someone's trying to trade me something for that or sell me something for that, then I am highly unlikely to fall into that system. And I think finding security in the autonomy of not being in the traditional stability, that is the biggest mindset shift. When you can find that stability in your autonomy, you're golden. You're gold. It sounds like just one thing. It's a high ticket item, but really feeling safe in yourself is such a gift, and it is the mindset shift for sure.
No, and I love when you talk about that, because I think that it does go back a little bit to there's no one right way to be anything. It's like you have to decide. And so I like the fact that, one of the largest deals that I've ever closed, I closed while sitting at Playa del Carmen at the beach. And it was like, it didn't feel I don't want to say like, oh my gosh, I have to get on this while I'm on vacation. It, felt very freeing and very open. And likewise, I was actually just talking to my son recently. And when he had transitioned from job A to job B, he said one of the things that for him felt very freeing was not having to leave his house. Like he sat there, and I know you and me have probably both done this, but he like set up his little like home work area, and he was like, I could just sit there, do my calls, and I was fine. And for him, it was going from this like traveling and being out all the time to just, this is what I need right now in this moment.
Right.
So.
Right. No, and I love that because like we say, between local voyager or world wanderer, everyone feels comfortable in a different space. I traveled to a concert this weekend and stayed in like teachers housing, like a dorm for teachers that I had like a little private room. The happiness that I have in my bones for that type of little like clean room with a desk and the little bathroom with the fridge and the mirror, like there's something in my brain that loves that ish, and not everyone does, right? So it depends. Not everyone likes to work at a coffee shop. Not everyone likes to be out and about. So what's beautiful about this lifestyle, about the digital nomad lifestyle, is legitimately wherever you are most comfortable and key effective. Because where you are most comfortable, you are going to be most effective. You're going to show up as your whole self. So allowing that lifestyle, however it looks, that's so beautiful to have even the freaking opportunity to do it. And then having the security that comes with making your own choices is a whole other level of freedom, right?
Exactly. And I know you covered it a little bit, but what do you particularly do with your clients when they say, hey, this is the move I want to make? Like, I'm ready to jump, whether, like I said, local voyage or world wonder, but, anyone who has, and we're going to use that word again, fear of leaving stability and like, instead of having a 9 to 5, instead of having like a physical home base, to a more flexible and mobile life, like what do you do with your clients to work through that right there?
Yeah, I think that on a basis of, yes, there's individualization on all of it. My ideal program and the proportions of the program that are put in for our consulting offer here for with your digital bliss are next level as far as making this the key focus. So it's a little bit faster. Usually what we will do is take all of the tools that we know in learning about yourself, and you know more about yourself than I do or anyone does, right? So taking that information and then tuning into an intuitive guidance that lines up with values. So we allow ourselves to find and reason through, find logically the stability. And when you see it, that's what's so good. Like, it's like lab work, right? Like when you see it happening, it's so much easier to stay motivated and move forward. And so it's the same thing, is when you see it aligning, when you put it together and say, look, this is what you want, and you're already doing it, and you're this far, and this is the momentum that you have. That fear kind of dissolves into excitement, and we want to use that emotion. The fear doesn't go away. It kind of like disintegrates into something new and it makes it all sparkly and exciting. And so using that through, there's a very particular within the space creation formula and learning about you, we just kind of like walk through it step by step. And with your digital bliss and that consulting, for if you're wanting to move through the fear directly around being a digital nomad, we do that directly. That's where we jump directly on the ego death and moving through the creation of this blissful lifestyle.
No, and I think that's a huge thing, when you're talking about kind of like keeping your eye on the prize, whatever that prize may be. In this case, it's, I know that I want to do this. So what does it take? And I know you spoke about it earlier, my philosophy is just do it, because you have to take inspired action at some point.
One of the steps, Kat.
Yeah, one of the steps, but what are some of the mental and emotional habits that you recommend for someone that can help them stay grounded while going through, whether it's an environmental change, as a digital nomad, or just change in general, like in dealing with things.
Well, I'm gonna get a little old school here and say I think everyone needs a journal of some sort, like a paper journal of some sort. I think having something physical with you, especially when you're moving around or when you're going from inside your house and changing from work mode to not work mode, so that you can find that balance. Having a journal is one of the key pieces to help you move forward with your affirmations, with anything you learn about yourself, and allowing it to be like an awesome journal, like everything that you think is you're in awe of, right? Like, this is so cool that I know this about myself. This is so useful that I know this about myself. I'm so excited about going to this place. I've got this dream or this feeling, right? So it allows you to put that all together. I'm such a dork. I have so many journals. It works though, right? So like I can 100% say this works, hands down, writing stuff out and all types of those exercises. So the intuitive journal, in whichever way works for you, is really important because it does ground you, right? Like you have that to hold on to. I think that allowing yourself to anchor internally, that intensive, that strength, that drawing inward, is something that you mentioned something good about. It doesn't have to be a super long meditation, but also it can be a moving meditation. You can be dancing. You could be listening to the music that you love. You could be laying in the grass. You could be swimming. You can be doing a lot of other things that are core to you. I always look, I'm like, do they have a heated pool? Like anywhere that we're about to be. Hey, boo, I did not know that the sea here in Spain is so cold. It is so cold, like blue lips mess. You know what I mean? Like you got to check this stuff out. That's a side note. But so I do recommend like watching your breathing, paying attention to your body, drinking water, talking to your water, doing any like ritual or hooky kooky stuff that makes you feel happy. Those little things that you can carry with you keep you feeling like no matter where I am. And for me, it's books and notebooks. That's what is like my main thing to core, like touch down to the physical world. But staying grateful that you have the freedom, because sometimes it does get taxing, and remembering to be grateful for the choices that you made and that the freedom does create challenges. So remembering that connection to wanting challenges so that we can move through them and go to the next space, feeling grateful to that, and listening to the little things so that you don't miss the big synchronicities in life. So although you have all these plans and you have all these practices and you're grounded, one of the most grounding things you can do is to like, oh shit, I want a coffee right now. I'm going to go get a coffee. And then you meet your best friend, right? So I think that's a little key note to drop in there at the end.
No, and I think what you talked about was huge because, you covered this mindset, but even let's say if you are traveling somewhere where maybe you can't connect with your best friend, or you can't, and when I mean connect, like an IRL, and in real life, it's okay, you know what? I'm going to do a little FaceTime date, a Zoom date with like somebody that's going to help like bring the right energy to this, and you talked about it also about being in gratitude, like taking the moment to be grateful. And that definitely leads into what I was going to chat about next, which is how to stay in the mindset of gratitude and of positivity and just overall good vibes, right? When you have missed flights, tech issues, client delays, whatever it may be, because I was going to say, one of the main softwares or something that you use being like, no, it's not going to work in this country anymore. Just kidding.
Right.
How do you maintain that and be like, you know what? I'm at peace. This is calmness. We're cool.
Something happened just last week where I had someone tell me like, basically you can't order from Europe. And I'm like, well, it's not for Europe, but I can't go home to. So when things, that's a little thing. One of the best ones that I've ever done, and I'm basically just going to like use this as a This is the cheat code, and this is what people can't figure out about what I'm getting right. And I'm going to tell you, you just hit it right on the head. I'm going to tell you exactly. This is what people can't figure out about what I'm getting right. Okay. And it's my mama's thing. My mama's taught me all this stuff, right? So it's that the bigger the rainstorm, the brighter the rainbow. And that sounds kind of cheesy and over the top. However, if you can really nail that in, you'll get excited about the rainstorms, right? Because you're like, oh shit, this is going to be an awesome rainbow. Like this rainbow is going to be killer. It's going to be hours long, right? It's such a beautiful thing to think about because the more you practice and just trusting, right? Remember, trusting that the unknown is always better than the known. You'd rather go for the unknown. Let's go for that, right? So one time I was at a little pool party with like every family member you can think of, and somebody was doing like handstands and walking on their hands by the pool. And guys, I really would like to be super athletic. I really wanted to be my whole life. It's just not hard. But I was certain that I could do this thing. So I go to stand on my wrist and legitimately on the side of the pool, break my wrist, fall down on my head in my swimsuit. It's the most embarrassing, horrible, like everyone's silent before they laugh kind of stuff ever. It was awful. And I remember immediately, this is just immediate thought, I bet something really good's going to come out of this. I bet something. So that's the win when you can get to that point. And I did. Yeah. I met one of my favorite doctor friends ever because I needed to go to a doctor, right? So everything does really work out like that. And it seems so simple, but really it's helpful to first take a breath, right? If you're not at the space where you are Jenna Land type of delusional and you're still having responses at this point like a human, you can take a breath or four, and just taking breath will let you get back into your body. Breathe into your belly first, and into your chest, then out of your chest, and out of your belly, right?
Yeah. So it's the 5-5-5.
Yes.
It's the 5-5-5. Take a breath for 5 seconds, hold it for 5, and then release for 5.
It's the most, Kat, it's so beautiful because it gives you this intelligence, because it rescues you from the fear that you're like jump into immediately. So when something that seems bad happens, the response to it's usually what F's us up, right? Like it's not what's actually happening. And if we can ride through it and stay calm, do the 5-5-5, and then eventually get to the level where it's kind of weird because it's like, my husband was a firefighter. And he used to, and this is years ago now, but he would be like, oh, it's a really good fire. And immediately be like, oh, that's messed up, right? Like it is that mentality though of, oh, I can be useful. Oh, I can be purposeful. Oh, I'm going to get to do what I'm here to do. Oh, I can really help. I can really give. And that happens to us without such an obvious house fire effect all the time when we say like, oh, this is a challenge. I'm ready to move through this challenge. I'm going to gain so many skills. I'm going to have so much more knowledge. I'm going to have more experience. And if you can flip that after your 5-5-5 breathing, if that helps, but as soon as you can start flipping that more and more and more, think about it. Then there's no more problems. There's only solutions. Like that feels like a vibe.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the big thing. If you lead with gratitude and you lead with the thought process, like you were saying, like, okay, so this storm's happening, but that just means we're going to have this super fun rainbow. And it really made me think, because we're talking about digital nomads and traveling, of the Jill song, because in one of the verses, it says, the other day I talked to Lou, he quit back in 92. It says he misses it bad. Those were the best times he ever had. And then, of course, it says, give it, HE double hockey sticks to the end, because once you quit, you can't get it back again. And it's like, and that's the thing, like you have to experience, you got to live it, right? And, I hate to say that. It's like missed flights, not so great food. And, all of this is all like an experience.
So. Right. Even if recently I had a hair in one of my tacos. It was the worst. But, see, it's all these little things. How boring. My mom used to tell me, how boring would it be Like, you're right, honestly. Like, it's a little roll my eyes, and life
Mhm.
is so much fun. And I think that when you are looking at a digital nomad lifestyle, however that is, and you're wanting the autonomy of choosing your connections, choosing how you're going to be
Mhm.
creative, choosing how you're going to be inspired, that attitude of you are going I mean, you're obviously gonna encounter new things all the time. That's what you're asking for, and to be grateful for what you got when you asked for it is kind of a nice little
Mhm.
lesson that we didn't know we needed to learn so many times.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads into really what the last thing that I wanted to cover, and that was, something that people don't talk about enough when it comes to living a more nomadic lifestyle, right? Whether you, like myself, I still have a home base to come to, but I travel, like, I mean, I think we talked about it once, like I actually travel sometimes more per se than you do, because
Oh,
I'll
for
be in like
sure.
5 different cities in 1 month. And it's like,
We're like
for
opposite.
me, yeah, I was gonna say, for me personally, it's like, it's almost like the enjoyment of being away and being with other people and being in community. And then at the same time, getting to be in solitude and still do what I love and what I enjoy, and having, I'm going to use the term peace, but like calmness and like high vibing in that, to me is such a blessing. And something I'm so grateful for all the time, you
I
know?
think that's what we've talked about wanting to give people. Like, I think this
Hmm.
is like our heart to heart conversation at that coffee shop in Austin, however, like a year or so ago, whatever,
Hmm.
is that this is so cool that we get to live these lives. And anyone that wants to have more freedom and autonomy and this connection to life and feeling
Hmm.
purposeful and letting yourself be creative, and that it's available, and that maybe we don't really realize that it's that available, that it's right in front of us.
Hmm.
How can we show them? How can we show them? So I think that what you talked about right now is something people don't talk about a lot about, is the energetic hygiene of realizing how to keep your energy in the state you want to keep it, right? Like, I think of it as like how you want your living room to look, and it's yourself inside your little mind, like
Hmm.
it's an environment in there, right? And understanding that all of us have different capacities and energetic contributions at different moments, and that there is a place where we can find those challenges to be not challenges, to be exciting, that's in our lane when we support that environment. So I
Hmm.
think it's really nice to what we help with the tools and looking at persona and how this fits and making sure you're aligned, that about yourself, so you're able to craft your lifestyle around something that not only supports what you're giving to the world, but how you're feeding yourself and filling yourself up, your own well being, your own alignment. And that's really the goal. And I think a lot of times we don't necessarily take enough consideration of the energies that we're around, that what we're absorbing, if we're being intentional about the energies that we're being around, and clearing your space, clearing your environment, making sure that you're being authentic and that your connections are authentic as well,
Hmm.
takes you so much further.
Absolutely. And it made me think of something, and I call it like an oldie but goodie. So take what you want out of it and pass what doesn't really fit. But I remember in 8 weeks to optimum health, they talked about like news fasting. So I myself personally can't like absolutely news fast, but I allotted myself, like, I can only watch the news after this time and for this amount of time, because it does nothing to my mindset if I, like, whether it's news or doom scrolling, like, absolutely.
Well, it's
Yeah.
crazy because back in the day, when I had my brick and mortar and I was consulting like in person, I guess I'm still in person, virtual
Mhm.
persons. Um, one of the biggest things that would shift someone's literal lab results, metabolic results, neurology results, all types of actual metabolic markers when we look at stress responses was, I would say, you cannot watch this. You cannot watch that. You can't watch murder shows. You can't watch the
Mhm.
news. You can't. Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. Not because you shouldn't or you wouldn't, or it's banned. It's just, what do you want as part of your body? What do you want as part of your experience? Are you being aware of that? No judgment. Are you taking awareness of it though?
Oh my goodness. So many amazing mindset gems that you have dropped. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for being a guest again and for joining me on the show. For anyone that is thinking about making the shift, whether it's in business, your lifestyle, or the way you think, and you're ready to stop overthinking and start realigning, I definitely recommend that you connect with Dr. Jenna W. Clack online. So Dr. Jenna W. Clack, where can they find you if they're looking?
I like, first of all, Dr. Jenna kind of sounds like we're from the South. It's like Miss Jenna. It's like, we're just playing it out that way. And I guess we kind of are. Anyways, the best way to reach me is going to be at visionaryintuitiveproductions.com. That's the website that has all of the programs from functional spirit science. I've got a really short class called Let's Get Functional for, I think, $22 to get you into the vibrations if you're just kind of curious. And you can find me on Instagram at drjw1. And I always say, if you can find me on TikTok, cool. It's just for fun. It has nothing to do with any of the other stuff. I would love to see you at Visionary Intuitive Productions when you are ready and when you're thinking about being ready, because you should move a little bit before you are ready, to see what we can do about aligning everything easily for you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming on today. Like I said, couldn't have been a better time. Highly recommend that you all check out Gritones Tequila. Like I said, sometimes plans of mice and men don't arise, but hey, a good glass of tequila, a good shot, maybe not a whole glass. That might be a lot for some people, but take a shot, take a deep breath, do your 5-5, and then move on. And of course, if you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.